Hello and welcome to the world of EDC. My name's Jeff, and today we're going to be talking about what I would do if I was the CEO of Spyderco. And this is a series of videos that I planned on doing in January of 2020. Obviously, we're already into February. I just have been on such a hiatus of not making videos that I haven't obviously been able to get around to it because I just wasn't making videos. But now that I'm back, I wanted to get into breaking down each individual company and what I would do if I was CEO for 2020. And I wanted to start with Spyderco because, in my estimation, Spyderco kind of breaks ground for most knife companies because they're so large and because they have such a huge footprint. When Spyderco sets a trend, that trend can start to be seen throughout the entire knife company. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody's going to do exactly what Spyderco is doing as far as blade steels and whatever else, but if Spyderco sets a trend, you can rest assured that other companies are watching. And so if I'm the CEO of Spyderco, I'm going to take a look at what my competitors are doing. Now, perfect example of a huge splash in the knife world in 2019, this knife right here, the Elementum. I think that Civivi, and I think most people would agree that Civivi hit a grand slam, not just a home run, a grand slam with that knife. And now, because of their either delayed or, I guess, designed marketing scheme of creating shortage, whether that was by design or just they didn't realize that it was going to be such a big hit or whatever the reason was, I think that most companies have to pay attention. Now, I think that Spyderco can and should do the same thing. I think that if I was CEO, I took over January 1st of 2020. My very first actions would be to look at knives such as the Elementum and say, what made this knife so successful? I think it's a brilliant design, great action, decent materials overall, D2, decent price for it, all that stuff. Now, Spyderco seems to want to steer clear of D2, and I think that that's wise of them. I think that D2 has ran its course. I think that it's running out of gas, and I think that the market is going to demand something other than D2 moving forward. Maybe after once we get through 2020, but 2021 latest, I think most people are going to start asking for something else. I think most of the content creators and people that are really, really into knives and buying knives all the time are already at that point where they don't want to see D2 anymore. If you're going to still see D2, I think that most people are going to be demanding that it be $50 or less. I think that something like the Elementum, while it's a great knife, great design, all that stuff, I think that if they were to introduce it on the downhill slide of D2 at $60, $65, I think that most people are going to start to shun that because we're seeing, R2D2s like the Rat2 in D2 around $50. Great design, old design, but great design, just reimagined in D2. And it's right at the right dollar mark. So back to Spyderco, what I would be looking at is what steel can we introduce to do our budget line outside of HCR 13 MOV, because the same things could be said about HCR 13 MOV that are said about D2. We can get into a debate about HCR and D2 and all these other budget steels at a later time. But if I'm Spyderco, I think that personally, and I mentioned this in my last video, that I would start to take a look at S30V becoming more the standardized budget steel and stop charging the $140 for a S30V knife. I think that the market has shifted. I think that to get ahead of that trend, I think that it can be done. There's companies that have showed that knives with better steels can be done around the $80 mark. 75. The example I used in the last video, and I'll use it again, is the cold steel Cold 4 is done in S35, and it's done for around $75, $80. You can find them on sale for as low as $69.99. And sometimes I've around Christmas I found them for $65 for S35 yen. Unbelievable. So to tell me that you can't do S30V, right here, S30V in the around $70, $75 and make that the new high-end budget knife for S35 or S30, I think people would start to be really excited for it. Doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be USA made. I understand that making things in the US, it gets to be expensive, but I do think that the Taiwan and Chinese factories can do S30V around that price. I think that the Spyderco name and, you know, the margins for the company are what keep those prices higher. Now, all of this, I have to make this statement. All of this is done without I have less than zero experience running a huge knife company. I don't have any of their earnings reports. I don't know what it costs to make S30V. I am simply using other companies' examples as my example. Other companies are able to bring them to market, therefore it's possible. That is the only crumb, very little crumb of evidence that I use to make this argument. Now, the price hike that has happened for Spyderco, and it's already done, you know, the nose is bloodied, so to speak. It's already showing its teeth. Small amount of people are boycotting Spyderco. We can't handle any more pay rate or cost raises and blah 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 blah. I know that Sal, I think his name is, the father, is that, I think it's Sal, maybe that's the son, I don't know, the owner was on Spyderco's forums and was explaining the price of materials has gone up, therefore we have to up the cost and pass it along to the customer and all that stuff, and I get it. But there are practices that can be changed to save money, to push designs from one factory to the other and decide, okay, this design is older now, therefore we're going to put it into a different steel and we're going to make it, because it's a timeless design, you know. What am I looking for? Oh, timeless design. Don't even get me started on the VG10, but timeless design, let's just do this design, but do it in an S30V, try to get it done in China for less or something like that. And again, I understand that all of these are just me kind of spouting things that I don't really know anything about. It's more so to spark the imagination of you guys out there watching and see if this is something that you're interested in me doing. Now, as far as designs go, and what I have noticed that are very successful across the board, I think the community wants lightweight, they want super usability, and they want something that is designed well enough that they're excited to take it out of their pocket. I think that knives like the Elementum, people are excited to take this knife out of their pocket. Designs like the Gent, happy to take out of their pocket. Something like the Akuchi, or even getting back to some Spyderco designs, the Chaparral, for me, the Little Native, the Para 2 and Paramilitary 2 and the Para 3, even the budget brand ones. If we can get some of those designs, you know, I bought these two knives not because I think that the materials are worth the money. I personally think that they're both worth around $100 given the carbon fiber and the rest of the materials used in them. I think that if this was just a G10, or both of them were just G10 with S30V, anything over, you know, $80, I think I'm overpaying. But I'm willing to pay that cost because these, I paid the around $140 mark for both of those knives because of the design. And so on classic designs, like let's say, the Tenacious, Paramilitary 2, the Para 3, even my Mannix 2, I think that they have to get back to making money a different way. So I would direct the ship towards, these knives aren't, like when a price hike happens, I think that these knives need to be immune to that, and newer knives should be the ones that pay the cost for it. I don't know a good solution for the price hike, because I do understand that when the price of things goes up, you pass it along to the customer. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't be allowed to do that. I'm just saying there are better ways to do it. And there's also a way to give customers a better bang for their buck, even though they're having to shell over, several percentages higher than what they were before. There's a right and a wrong way to do it. And so to this point, we've talked about materials and all that stuff. And there's another thing that I think that I need to touch base on really quickly. I think that the more popular designs in today's market seem to be around this size. These smaller, easy to carry EDC knives. And so obviously there's larger knives that people still love, but I think that if you're going to try to hit grand slams, hit home runs, you need to be looking at that 7 to 7.5 inch knife with a 3 to 3.5 inch blade. I think that's where the sweet spot is, and sleek in this dimension, not the length, the thickness, but this from here to there design, with same as the Inkuchi. This dimension is where I think the money is made. I think that that's what people want, is that something that they can slip their hand past in their pocket, feel that it's there, and get that little bit of oh, I've got my knife, I feel it there, it's great, but not have something that thick to get their hand past anymore. I think the days of this being a everyday carry knife are over. I think that this is just a beater knife now. And so to be charging EDC happy to carry prices for something like this, those days are gone. This is the future. This is the future. Something sleek, something you can get your hand past. Maybe I'm wrong. You guys can feel free to let me know in the comment section how you feel about all this, but that's where I sit, and that's where I feel Spyderco could be setting the trend on a bunch of these things that I've covered. So I don't know if you guys are interested in me doing any more of these. Maybe this is just a one and done, and you guys don't want to see what I have to say about other companies and if I was in charge. But these are some of the directions that I'd be going to my company with, and saying I want to see designs that push us in this direction. I want to see materials pushing us in this direction. These are the price points that I want to hit. And this is what I think that the market is demanding for X, Y, or Z amount of money. So sorry about all the cluster and whatnot and all the different topics, but I hope you guys follow. Please like the video if you enjoyed. Please dislike the video if you do not want to see any more of these. I know it's rare that you hear people saying dislike if you don't want to hear that, but to me, I want the feedback more than I want your approval, if that makes sense. So with all that being said, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.